While we can't beat our chest yet that we had solved all the security problems, we are working hard to ensure that we all have peace of mind in our homes, places of work, and on the roads. Those were the words of President Bola Tinubu during his New Year's speech. He also reassured Nigerians that national defense and internal security remains a priority. Tonight, Babajide Ogunsoro, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data consultant, is here to share insight on the outlook for security in the year 2024. Great to have you again, Babajide, on the News at 10.
The pleasure is always mine.
And Happy New Year, of course.
Happy New Year, surely.
All right, so in the New Year message of President Bola Tinubu, the president has said he understands the expectations of Nigerians. Is there any clue on what he intends to do next regarding security? What's the outlook?
You know, Tony, before we go into the outlook, I'll have brought you a New Year present, but I've been speaking to a lot of Nigerians about what is their outlook for 2024. And what I'm about to present you is actually a summary of what Nigerians are saying on the streets. For them, this is what the government should focus on. For the average Nigerian, what they are saying is that we should stop talking about seeing the future. What they are saying is that all they need the government of Nigeria to do is to see clearly. In simple terms, seeing the future is the next step. What is urgent right now is they want the government to see clearly. Seeing clearly simply means that the government will get its economic and security programs on the right lane. Millions of Nigerians, I actually believe that the government currently is on a one-way, driving against traffic. And so seeing clearly for Nigerians is sufficient than even seeing the future. Now let's go into the outlook for the year. We are at the point where President Tinubu gave his New Year message. But here's the challenge. Since 1999, and looking at 5 presidents we've had, each president coming in with a new message, we've seen more similarities across New Year messages than differences. If we take a look at President Buhari's first New Year message in 2016, you will understand what I'm talking about better, because it allows us to put things in perspective. We remember 2016, January, when President Buhari gave that first New Year message talking about lengthy fuel queues at the stations and the difficulties businesses were facing in acquiring foreign exchange. He believed then that those challenges were temporary and the government was going to make things better. That was January 2016. Challenges still persist. January 2016, President Buhari made it clear. The plan was to reduce the country's reliance on oil and diversify the economy. Then, 96% of Nigeria's exports were oil. The report from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that now we still have 90% of our exports still oil. January 2016, President Buhari made it clear. He said he was going to do his utmost best to keep every promise he made to Nigerians during the election campaign. Tonight isn't about looking at if President Buhari kept all of his promises. That debate will happen another day. But tonight, let's look at what President Tinubu has promised in his own first New Year message. He said his administration recognizes that no meaningful economic transformation will happen without steady electricity supply. In simple terms, President Tinubu is saying if he's not able to solve Nigeria's electricity problem, the country will not make progress. In his New Year message, he has talked about his major ambition is to build a fair and equitable society and close the widening inequality. We're about to find out if after his term, because we will take a look at these promises and find out if that was achieved. In his New Year message, he talked about understanding that a lot of Nigerians were asking, is this how this administration wants to renew their hope? And so that is the situation we find ourselves. Looking at where we're coming from and looking at the president's promises. He says his clear priority, one of the clear priority areas will remain the defense and security of the country. But what the president also needs to look at is, if we look at our history, the president and the presidential system has focused on military, the federal government's might in securing the country. 2024, for there to be renewed hope, we need to look at state and local government security solutions. That is the real outlook, actually.
All right, so now looking at the highs and lows of security in 2023, can our recent history, of course, be used to predict the future of security? I mean, in 2024 and even beyond?
In all, 2022 first was a tough year. The evidence shows 2023, looking at security, was a better year relative to 2022. One way to look at this is for us to look at the top 10 security stories for 2023, because it then allows us to have a recap of what happened in 2023 and then make better judgment on what 2024, the 12 months of 2024 will look like. Coming into 2023, story 10, we see that the partnership between the U.S. Army Corps on the Super Tucano jets, a facility was built and it was commissioned. So that was a big positive story in 2023. The partnership the Nigerian military had with the United States Army to make sure that the Super Tucano jets that had been purchased were well maintained. We clearly also had seen the new Chief of Defense Staff, General Musa, evolving an integrated philosophy that improved the synergy the Nigerian Navy, the Army, and the Air Force had. So we clearly have seen that since June, when the president appointed new Chief of Defense, new service chiefs, we've seen that new leadership improve the sort of working relationship that they have. Another big story last year was the president signing the Defense Industries Corporation bill. Summary of the bill is to allow Nigeria to start looking inwards to self-sufficiency in military equipment. So the bill will improve the capacity of the armed forces to invest more in local production and also to attract investors that want to invest in local production. Story 7, we saw that drone failure that led to innocent lives
Mistaken airstrikes.
Mistaken airstrikes in Tuna, exactly. So that was one of the big stories as well for last year. Another big story of last year was we saw a lot of arrests of collaborators of terrorists. Some numbers put it as much as 1,000 of those collaborators were identified and arrested. A lot of them are waiting trial, but that has allowed a lot of families in the Northeast feel safer. The government also had declared a state of emergency on food security last year. That was one of the big stories for last year, talking about how it intends to use some of its economic plans to reduce the rising food prices and reduce shortages. Big story again was the Christmas Eve tragedy that happened in Plateau State. We remember the change of baton that happened in June when all the service chiefs were changed. And then the top two biggest stories of the year. Story 2 was the report from humanitarian agencies and diplomats that as much as 7,000 terrorists were killed in Nigeria. Never in our history has the military been able to achieve that such feat. And the biggest story of the year, based on online reports, shows that the Global Terrorism Index, which is the world's leading authority of measuring terrorism, stated that Nigeria recorded its lowest incidence of terrorism in the last decade. And so, looking at 2023, despite the big security challenges, we feel that 2023 provided some hope relative to what had happened in 2022. So, summary was 2023, we could say, good news relative to 2022.
And finally, definitely, what would be the global security perspective, about Nigeria in the year 2024?
Now,
quickly.
Those are where the real numbers are. Again, don't forget, let's keep our eyes on this.
Nigerians talking about seeing clearly.
Seeing clearly more than seeing the future. 2023, good news. Let's look at the numbers again from the Global Peace Index, because again, that gives us, despite the good news, that lets the government know what the challenges are and how the world sees Nigeria. The numbers in front of us are from the Global Peace Index, and those are Nigeria's rating across perceived criminality in society. The best score should be 1. We've seen that we've struggled to go below 2. Since 2021, perceived criminality has been increasing. Organized conflict. Based on the report from Global Peace Index, they are saying that in the last 10 years, perception of organized conflict, their assessment is that nothing has really changed. Overall score, things were really bad in 2016. The target was to get 1. According to Global Peace Index, we scored 2.84. 2021 in the last 10 years was our best year, 2.64. However, since 2021, the Global Peace Index says Nigeria needs to be careful. Things have started to change. And so, in all, 2023 gave us hope. 2024, we still have hope. The outlook still looks good based on the trends of 2023. However, the government needs to keep its eyes very, very clear. The trends and the numbers shows that if we are not careful, if we keep focusing on the military and we fail to look at state and local government solutions, 2024 could be problematic. Let's not forget how we started. What Nigerians are asking for is the government should not even talk about seeing the future. All they want is for the government to see clearly. Anthony.
All right. Thank you so much, Babajide. We definitely appreciate your thoughts again on the news at 10. And let's hope things get better as far as security is concerned.
We just all need to see clearly.
See in the present.